Okay, America, here we are once again. Welcome back to the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk and awesome rock. Here we go, folks. Even though the election is over, even though things have, well, I hope they have ended up the way we want them to. Turns out we picked up some few seats here. We picked up a few seats there in the Senate and the Congress. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Charlie Baker got elected. I, of course, as you all know, I am a Mark Fisher guy. But thank you. An empty pizza box over Martha Coakley. Oh, please, please. I would elect an empty pizza box over Martha Coakley. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure. Here we go here on the Meat and Potato Show. This is what we do here. My great guest. This is a guy that I have spoken to many times before. It seems that he and I meet hit or miss throughout various campaigns, various events, and I always say, hey, you gotta come on the show. You gotta come on the show. Finally, after 2-3 years, he's finally come on the show. My good guest, Bill LeBeau, is a current chairman of the Worcester, Mass. Ward 7 Republican Committee, a board member of the Project New Hope, the senior vice commander of VFW Post 7556 in Rochdale, Massachusetts, and a member of Legion Post 138 in Spencer, Massachusetts. How the hell does this guy get these posts? Bill served 8 years. Here you go, folks. This is why I invite these guests on the show. Bill served 8 years in the Army Reserves as an MP and as a veteran of the First Gulf War. He served for 13 years as a volunteer firefighter and over 20 years as a police officer. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my most humbled honor to welcome to the Meat and Potato Show my good friend. I've been trying to get him on the show since 2009, Bill LeBeau. Bill, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for that, Chris. I don't know what to say after all that. Wow.
Well, Bill.
It's my pleasure to be here. You and I have talked about politics, sitting there in campaign offices in central Massachusetts, always seeming to be on the wrong side of the results, but not on the wrong side of the ideas.
Well, it seems like this election, we actually picked up some seats. I mean, I'm having a little bit of hope here. Go on, talk about that.
Well, I think we need to have more than a lot of hope. One of the things that I've been pushing for is the district that I live in, the 17th Worcester District. It's made up of a town. It's a suburb of Worcester. Worcester is the second largest city in New England, and it's a very heavily Democrat-heavy city, but there's a lot of independents, and there's been a lot of people moving into the city from other places, and a lot of those are part of the minority groups, and that's what we started targeting 2 years ago when I ran for that same seat. I was going up against at that time, a 26-year veteran Democrat who had been in the State House all that time, running unopposed most of the time, and I ran because we couldn't find anybody else to run against him, and I really felt like if I had won, I would have done a good job, but we just need to start fighting for everything. And I certainly think that had a little bit to do, not much, but a little bit to do with the fact that this time around, we had a great candidate in Kay Campanelli, and she actually won the seat, folks, as a Republican in one of the bluest of the blue cities in Massachusetts.
Let me tell you a crazy little story about Kay Campanelli, and thank God she won. Thank God. Let me tell you a crazy little story. I lived up on Jones Street, up on Granite Street. I was in a different Worcester district. I moved over here to the west side of the city. Here's the story. I moved into my place, and I was a Mark Fisher guy, and I was involved in the repeal the gasoline tax. I went with Desiree and that's all on my Meat and Potato Show. That's everything out there. So I moved into this new place, and I plunked down the signs in my front lawn. I had a Mark Fisher sign. I had the repeal, the automatic, stop automatic gas. I put those signs up. One day, poof out of nowhere, Kate's walking down my street, and she comes up to the door. She knocks on the door. My son answers the door, and I'm Kate Campanelli. She does her thing, and it's like my son says, "Oh, wait a minute." He comes to me. He says, "Dad, you got to talk to this person." I go out there. I immediately recognized her. I was like, "Kate, it's Chris Maynard from Meat and Potato Show." Her eyes lit up. She's like, "Oh, Chris, hey!" She's like, I told her, I was like, I quite literally just moved in here yesterday. And she's like, "I saw the signs from Mark Fisher. I saw the signs." It's like, she's thinking to herself, "How did I miss this store?" It's like, "No, Kate, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I already went in for my, you know how you got to change your address and change your voting and everything? I did all that." I said, "Don't worry, Kate. I got you covered." And she's like, "Oh, thank you." And I told her, I was like, "Kate, come on the Meat and Potato Show. I know she's busy. I know she couldn't get on there, but I'm going to talk to Kate later on. Got to get her on the show." I understand that. You can't get everybody. But that's the silly little story. It was like, "Yeah, Kate, go, man, go." It was like, she was like, "Oh my God, you moved into my district?" It's like, "Yeah, I moved in, and yep, Kate, you got it, buddy. You got it."
Well, I worked the polls on Tuesday in Ward 7-3 of my district, and it's a heavy minority. It's a large population, minority population there. And when I say minority, it's not like we have one group from one place. We have Puerto Rico, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Armenia, Albania, Vietnamese. I mean, this district is so diverse. And it felt like, anecdotally, I don't have the hard numbers to say this for sure, but with the people that I spoke with, it looked to me like she was splitting, if not getting, the minority vote. And the number one reason is because Kate put her feet to the pavement and she knocked on those doors. She knocked on, I know for a fact, she knocked on at least 4,000 to 5,000 doors. And never mind the lit drops and all the others and stuff. And it was heard. People walking into the polling places. She's getting my vote. She worked hard for this. Chris, we've been saying this for years. If we fight and we don't just sit back and let things happen, good things can happen. And right now, in Worcester especially, we're in the heart of Massachusetts. We're surrounded in a sea of red right now, and part of Worcester itself is now turned red.
Right.
So, this is huge because we're going to build upon this. Kate's going to prove to everybody that thinks that only Democrats can be public servants that that's not true. Because I know her, and she's got so much energy. She's going to be putting her heart and soul into this job. She's going to be the best rep that this district has had in over 40 years, and I'm sure of it, and we're going to do everything we can to help her. But I want to see this in 2 years. I want to see more people run and fill some more of these slots up. We have people running unopposed up and down the ticket, including our congressman. I mean, you shouldn't be sitting there unopposed running for Congress.
No, you shouldn't. Actually, here's the other thing that I've noticed throughout my candidate interviews, through everything that I've followed through in this election, is that I kept interviewing candidates, and every single one of them, as you just said, has been knocking on doors, and they have found an interesting, I don't know, I want to call it a switch, is that it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. That person knocks on the door, and they talk to that person who's living there, and they themselves say, "I'm sick of this. Yes, I'm a registered Democrat, and I am sick of this." And
Right.
"Oh, who's your name? What are you doing?" It's like, yeah, well, I have no money. Here's the thing. I have no money. I talked to these candidates. These candidates were quite literally running shoestring operations. I interviewed them on my show. This was the difference. Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
Well, 2 years ago, I went up against a state rep who had, are you ready for this? $391,000 in his campaign account. He had been running unopposed, collecting money from the unions, constantly, every year, having fundraisers out in Boston. I did not have one penny to my name when I decided to throw my hat in the ring. We put our name in the ring 4 days before the deadline to get the signatures. We needed 150. I had only 5 or 6 people, but it was an army of 5. And we got out there and we collected 375 signatures within those 4 days and got those signatures in certified under the wire. And from that point forward, I mean, you remember, we made a campaign of it. And our campaign spent $7,500, and every single dollar I got was hard-earned money out of someone's pocket. I mean, it wasn't from some PAC or from a union. It was from people shoving $20 or $50 at us when they could. Yeah, $7,500. And, you know, my opponent, even though he won, he spent $98,000 to get reelected. And we still got we got 3,300 votes out of the 13,000 cast.
We're seeing a turn of the tide, and I've spoken about this on my blog. I had spoken about this to other candidates when I interviewed them on my show. That we're seeing what I call a peel back. We're not going to see a big change. We're not going to see some cataclysmic, some revolutionary thing happening. But we're going to start seeing that peel back, that slow layers being revealed away and pulled back. And the more and more that Americans see that, you just said it. I just talked about Kate Campanelli just quite out of nowhere showing up at my door. These are the small things, bit by bit by bit. Look at my show, bit by bit by bit. The candidate interviews, everything that we do. It's like a pebble in the ocean. It's a pebble in the river. We change the course. Just throw that more pebbles in. Eventually, we will get that way along the way. And I think it's great. We've gained some governorships. We've gained Senate seats. We've gained congressional seats. They're not big, but again, it's that pebble in the river. We've changed that course. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, the governor's races, those are the biggest part of this whole deal that happened on Tuesday. You know, we now have 31, at least 31. I think
we do. Yep. I looked at the numbers. Good.
31
Yep.
Republican governors in 3 of the bluest states have now got Republican governors. Maryland, Illinois, and Massachusetts.
Yeah, really. Here in Baker, yeah. I mean, talk about it, man. Talk about it. What is going on here?
To Charlie, I met Charlie. Let me tell you a story about Charlie, okay? I was working for the first Scott Brown campaign. And, you know, we had the Osgood building right there on Grafton Street in Worcester, and there's a diner across the street. It's right next to where those 6 poor souls died, the firefighters. It's right next to where they died.
Right.
And it's called the Kenmore Diner. I walked in there, and there's this guy, and he was with one other guy. He was all by himself. This is January of 2010. It's a couple weeks before the election, the special election. And he was so tall. I don't know if you've met Charlie in person, but he's one of the tallest guys you'll ever meet.
Several times.
And I'm standing there, and I'm 5'10", but I was looking up at him. You know, I felt like a little kid. But anyways, he was so friendly and affable. We had not met each other at all. He said, you know, I'm Charlie Baker. I'm thinking of running for governor. And I said, oh, wow, I'm sitting here. At that point, I had only been involved in politics for 3 months because I never got involved in politics before until I saw Scott Brown getting interviewed after he won the primary in September of 2009. And I got up and I went down there and volunteered like a lot of people did on that race. And here I am talking to Charlie, and he asked me a question about something with law enforcement. And here I am talking to a governor's candidate, and he was just so personable and listening. It wasn't like he was just, you know, placating me. He was listening. And, you know, he's now the governor. I mean, things can change. And we're going to look back here in Massachusetts. Someday this is going to be a purple state, not a blue state. I really believe that. And it's going to come from the seeds of Central Mass, which is Worcester County. And it's going to go back to that race with Scott Brown. That's the springboard, because people realize if we put the work in, we can win.
Yeah, this is what I mean about a slow trickle. Yeah, we're probably going to become a purple state. We really are. I mean, things don't happen overnight. Here's the thing that I have always said on my show, about my interviews, the candidates, everything. I mean, if we can put that one voice, that one thing into changing what's going on here, I mean, it has ramifications long term. I mean, you and yeah, great. If we could have elected everybody in there, oh, great. Yes, thank you. We all know that's not going to happen. We hope for the best.
That's
We
right.
plan for the best, and we're grateful for what has happened. Look, I'm a
But
big
we have so many, Chris, we have so many hungry young candidates who are smart, they're articulate, they've got the energy. I mean, what Ryan Fatman did to Dick Moore down in the South County area,
right.
I mean, that's a long-standing state senator. The kid runs, and I call him a kid, I mean that in all respect. He's not literally a kid, but you know what I mean? For me, at 50 years old, he's half my age, right? So, I mean, he's a young person, he's got all that energy. I mean, he gets out there, he becomes a state rep, does a great job, gets reelected, and now he's just been elected as a state senator.
Right, right.
I mean, our farm team is building up so that we don't have to go searching too far down the road. God willing, and us willing, and our hard work, Charlie gets 8 years. We have other people waiting in the wings to compete against whoever's thrown at us.
That's right. And here's the thing. Here, you just mentioned Ryan Fatman. Ryan Fatman, I've been in contact with him, trying to get him on the show. His wife, who's running for register of probate, tried to get her on the show. I was not. I sent them out tons of emails, tons of invitations to my candidate symposium. None of them showed up. I'm not belittling them for doing that. They have a campaign to run. They have other things to do. Jesse Lemanik, who was running against Ryan Fatman, came on the show. He and I tried to work out a debate between him and Ryan Fatman. It fell apart. Ladies and gentlemen on the Meat and Potato Show, listen to this. That does not matter. It doesn't matter that it fell apart. It does not matter that this guy didn't want to do that, that person. It doesn't matter. We can argue all we want during the campaign. In the end, we must all come together. I was just going to say earlier, as Bill was talking, that I'm a big Mark Fisher guy. Am I not going to vote for Charlie Baker? I told this on the Meat and Potato Show when I interviewed Mark Fisher. And Mark even said, yeah, of course, Chris. You gotta vote for Mark Fisher. You gotta vote for Charlie Baker. You gotta vote for him. You've got to get past all of this. When it's an election time, sure, hash it out, battle it out. That's the great thing about our republic. One of the great things, though, is in the end, you've got to resolve, and you've got to get to what I call the meat and potatoes. I voted for Charlie Baker. Go ahead, Bill.
Chris, that's one of the things that I am concerned about is that there is this divide, and it's been pretty cantankerous. We know that. I have a lot of, I'm not against walking into a Tea Party group and talking to them. I did that when I was running. I have no problem. And the reason is that I want our party to be inclusive, because we're not going to win if we divide. If we throw a Tea Party candidate out and a Republican, the Democrats are going to continue to win and get that liberal agenda through, because there's not enough people to offset each other and overcome that. And, we in the party have to do a better job of including the Tea Party message, because it's a big part of the Republican message. We need to have more conservative values. We cannot continue to allow people that call themselves Republican and then sit there and don't do anything. If you're sitting in the Senate, now there's 6, there are 4. If you're only one of 4, and a bill comes up, and you're 4 against how many, I don't remember the exact number in the Senate, but it's probably like 4 to 50, and there's nothing stopping you from voting your conviction in the way you should vote based on your conviction in the people who elected you. And yet, time after time after time, they'll go along with the majority, and the excuse will be, well, we have to go along to get along. That just really rubs people the wrong way. The thing with the Tea Party, we have to include the ideas, like you said. across the country on Tuesday were Tea Party senators. That's not being talked about, but they were.
Right. Find a common ground when it comes to that Tuesday in November. Vote. Just go out there and vote. I like what you just said, though. Because even in Massachusetts legislature, Beacon Hill, I think we're still pretty much at a minority. I mean, we gained some seats, but we're still at a minority. But I like what you just said, that are we going to vote just to get along? I got to speak for the show. I always say this is the official meat and potatoes position. Well, because it is. It is my official position. It is also the company position that, yeah, we might be the party of no, and people may lambaste us about that. We are supposed to be the party of no. I mean, you just said it. I mean, we're like half a dozen people as opposed to an entire majority of the other side. Guess what, folks? I would demand that our side says nothing but no. Don't try to compromise, because you're not compromising. What you're doing is you're just trying to go along to get along. No, say no, take the hits, even if you get voted out. At least you stood on principle. Just say no, because we all know what the state of Massachusetts is trying to do. So that's why.
Well, eventually that gets rewarded in results. It does, because if you don't give the people a choice, why are they going to make a change? It comes down to that. Kate Campanelli is a good example of someone who,
sure.
She had a very simple message. Taxes and jobs. Let's lower the taxes and let's get people back to work. And the other side wasn't talking that at all. They were talking the continuation of the money machine in Boston. And nobody wants to hear that anymore. Chris, we can get parking attendants at Logan Airport that with overtime make over $100,000 a year. Let's have sink in for a second. Parking attendants that collect the little tickets make over 100. We have floor sweepers at the Heinz Convention Center. Some of them convicted murderers from the Winter Hill gang, sweeping floors at over $90,000 a year. Here's one stat.
This is Massachusetts, folks.
From Massachusetts. When Deval Patrick took over 8 years ago, we had about 2,100 state employees total who made over $100,000. Today, we're pushing almost 9,000 employees making over $100,000. In one of the worst recessions that we've ever had. This is craziness. Crazy. Here in Massachusetts, we make a much higher income than a lot of other states. I think we're number 14 in income in the country. In 2009, the Obama administration does a stimulus package of $787 billion. We put a lot more money into the Treasury than people from Idaho or Arkansas based on our income tax. And yet, we ended up with less than 1 penny on the dollar from that. And all of our leadership is Democrat. This is a horrible system, having a one-party control everything, because it doesn't pay off. We need to have balance. And the only way we're going to get balance is to stand by our convictions, run good candidates up, fight hard, don't let any race go uncontested, and let the chips fall. And we're going to turn this state. We really are.
Well, let me ask you this one question here. Now that Charlie's in, do you see what I have said on many of my interviews, a potential of peeling those layers away? Do you think we can start to see that peeling away of those layers?
Yes. And let's go with transportation, because that's my expertise. I'm actually a transportation professional. I was a safety director for a trucking company right here in Massachusetts. I'm pretty proud of what I did there. I took a company that was very unsafe and made it one of the safest in the state. A model for other companies to look at. But some of the things we're up against, the transportation secretary came to a meeting last year with 200 trucking companies in the room. And they were looking for $1 billion in new taxes for transportation taxes. I don't know if you remember that. And the typical Democrat liberal way is we'll ask for $1 billion, we'll end up with $500 million, and everybody will think we're wonderful because we only got the $500 million. We still increase
Yeah, true,
But that
right?
secretary stood up there and he said to the trucking companies in the room, by the way, don't worry, if I don't get it from you in taxes, I'm just going to raise your tolls. I'll get it one way or the other. That type of arrogance is going away because Charlie Baker is going to be in charge of people in those positions. Those people are going to be gone. Charlie's going to be putting business-minded people in there. He's going to be putting people that care about the people of this Commonwealth. And
You there? Hello? Uh-oh. I think we lost him. Hang on. 2 seconds. Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Hang on. Hang on, folks. All right, I'm going to stop cameras here right now so we can get hold of Bill LeBeau. Hey, this is what happens live on air. Bill, you there?
I get cut off there for a second.
That's okay, Bill. Hey, it's live radio. Shit happens,
Yeah,
man.
that's right. That's what happens.
All right, keep going. Keep going, man.
Well, no, I'm just saying, we are going to be changing the messaging by having different people in charge of these agencies. The MBTA, they're underfunded by $1 billion. That's from Tim Murray's own mouth a couple of years ago.
That's right.
And yet they keep coming back looking for more and more and more for more taxes. And they've increased their payroll by over 1,500 employees making over $100,000. Now, I don't have a problem with people making money. Don't get me wrong. I'm a working guy. To my union friends out there, I lost a job because I tried to organize a union at the place. That's not the problem. The problem is you have 4 secretaries before you get to the manager. There's no reason for this. It's all been places to park jobs for people because it's been one party rules all. There's been no check and balance. Having Charlie there is going to help us turn that tide back.
Like I said, peeling back the layers. We're going to start seeing that. It's amazing that here in Massachusetts we've done this. We've done this for so long about the one-party state. I'm not just talking about Deval Patrick. I mean, we've had Republican governors before, but we've seen time and time again the legislature just ruling the state the way it goes. And I've done exposés on the problems with DCF. I've done exposés on the problems with our taxes. We've seen what's happened with question 1 about, the tax being automatically indexed. We've seen these things that have gone on in our legislature that it seems like these people can just get away whatever the hell they want to get away with. And I am wondering if maybe we obviously won on question 1. I'm just wondering, again, getting back to the peeling back thing, do you think you might see a turn in the tide as far as not just our government here in Massachusetts, but just in the attitudes of the people? Do you think you see a change in the people?
I do. I'll tell you, where it's starting is at the State House itself.
Right.
It's because somebody
that's
has a
the
deed
question.
in it doesn't.
Yeah, that's the
It
question
doesn't
I'm
mean they're
asking.
totally evil. What's that, Chris?
That's the question I'm asking. I mean, Beacon Hill obviously got a message, but we all know how that goes. It's like, oh, we've heard it all before. Yeah, the people are speaking out, but we're just gonna go do whatever the hell we want.
Well,
and I'm wondering if this maybe is this that time?
I think so. I think people who, on both sides of the aisle, who are going to grab onto a couple things. You know, Sean O'Connell has been fighting hard about the EBT fraud. And the headlines in the Herald and the Globe last year all about the dead people that were getting EBT cards. My biggest problem with that whole story was the lead that was buried halfway through, which was 30,000 blank EBT cards are missing out of the welfare offices across the state. Now, somebody is going to have to atone and account for that, and I think now that we have a Republican governor, we can start putting pressure on to get some investigations into that stuff and find out, you know, where did those cards go? Because I know when I was a director of a department and I had budgetary authority, I didn't even hand out a Dunkin' Donuts $5 card to an employee. I had somebody from payroll do it so it could be audited. There has to be some accounting for that. I mean, only state employees are sitting there with those blank cards in their desks and they're missing. You know, this is one issue that's out there. I mean, we have a ton of stuff like that now that we have a different person at the top, we can start putting some, you know, spotlights on some of this stuff. And I think the tide is going to turn because as more and more comes out and stuff, you know, we got this probation department scandal that happened with the whole trial. And we've got people who did the favors who are going to jail. But none of the legislatures are even being charged. That has to change. I mean, these are the types of things that can change with a Republican administration at the top.
Well, here's the thing.
They can appoint people.
Here's the thing, Bill. If the liberals and the Democrats and the socialists and the lefties want to be in charge, wouldn't they want to put a best face upon what they're doing?
Always. My opinion, Chris, this isn't about party anymore. This is more like Tammany Hall. This has been so one-sided for so long that it's rife with corruption. And that's what the problem is. If we had a Republican state that was completely Republican for 50 years, it would be the same way.
Exactly. Right.
Okay? So it's not the Democrats. It's the machine that's there. And from the top to the bottom, you have an attorney general that covers stuff up but doesn't prosecute because politically it'll hurt her in the governor's race. You know,
and it won't matter. It won't matter which side they're on. Here's what I'm talking about. Wouldn't you, okay, I'm going to revise my question that I just asked you. Never mind if you were a liberal or if you were a conservative, a Democrat or a Republican. Wouldn't you, as a public servant, is that a neutral word to use? A public servant, wouldn't you want and demand that everyone exercise themselves to the utmost of honor and integrity in your office, that which you have been appointed to serve the people and to do what you're supposed to do? Am I asking a rhetorical question, and am I just throwing the proverbial dog, you-know-what, up against a wall?
Well,
Bill?
I don't think so, because I think there are a lot of people who want to do the right thing and want others to do the right thing, but they're outnumbered right now. We got to give them bigger numbers. You know, if you're the lone dog out there barking against the pack of dogs, then you know it's scarier, it's harder. Human nature, self-preservation comes into play. I mean, you know, if you have one person out there, then what do? They smear, they attack, they go after family members. You know how it is. They've done it.
Right.
Now, as we get the numbers increased, that becomes less effective. And others on the other side of the aisle, who are just what you said, real patriots, I call them, they're out there. We have a state senator in my district. I like him, Mike Moore. I mean, he's a moderate guy. Push comes to shove, he's going to do the right thing.
Sure. What do you think about Seth? What do you think about Seth Moulton? I mean, he just won an election. What do you think about that guy?
It wasn't. I understand. As a veteran, I'm glad. You know, I mean, you get the message. But I'm an 80% disabled veteran. I get all of my health care at the VA, and I know for a fact, I'm one of the patients. The Boston VA healthcare is top notch. Compared to what the civilian doctors can do for us right now, the average time is 11 minutes per visit. We're getting much better care at the VA in Boston. Now, that doesn't carry through for the rest of the country. I understand that. But to go after the VA healthcare system in Boston, when it's one of the best in the country, I thought that was a
he won. He won. He got in. He got
He
in.
did. He did. But, we have a 9-0 Democrat representation at the congressional level. Well, 2-0 on the Senate level. We have to change that.
Sure.
We have to. Because the liberal policies and the liberal approach to world affairs isn't working either, and it's hurting us. We're in a world economy, but we're not positioned properly now because of what's gone on in the last 6 years. And that's going to hurt us economically. And that, is just as dangerous to us as if a bomb was dropped on us.
Sure. Now we're coming to. Let's wrap this up soon. But I want to talk to you about. Okay, we've gained seats in the House. We've gained seats in the Senate. We've gained governorships. We're looking at quite literally the last year and a half of lame duck Obama. Given his track record of just executive orders, whatever. I mean, that whole lame duck idea might be thrown out the window because this guy, because he sees it's his last year and a half, he might just go ahead and do whatever, and it's the meat and potato show. He might just do whatever the fuck he wants.
Well, Chris, I was very disturbed with his press conference yesterday. It seems to me the guy's delusional. I mean,
Yeah.
when this happened to him, came back to the table and said, okay, I'm going to roll my sleeves up. We're going to find a way to make some things work.
Thus my question.
This president is so arrogant. It's just bleeding through. Even yesterday, he's saying, well, I'm going to expect them to give me a bill and I'll decide if it's good or not. And if it's not, I'm not signing it and I'm going to do what I want anyway. Well, you know what? That's not the way our system works. And I think this is a very, very dangerous time for us the next couple of years, with policies and stuff. But this overwhelming majority that we handed to the Congress and the Senate on the Republican side, I think it's going to give some Democrats a lot of cover to come over to our side and start. I have a feeling you're going to do a debate with another radio show host earlier today about this, where I really think we have a chance that we could get some veto-proof numbers in some of these bills going forward. And I'm really hoping that's the case because there are a lot of Democrats who realize, 29 of them that signed in the Senate, that signed the Obamacare crap, are gone.
Listen.
So, again, self-preservation, right?
Listen, America, audience that's listening to the Meat and Potato Show, listen, I told you in my blogs and on my shows, I used to be raised. I was raised a liberal Democrat. I know the playbook. I've become a constitutional conservative just from years. And it's not about left or right. It's about preservation of our republic. Listen, if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you were a staunch left-wing Democrat. It's about preservation of our republic. That's what it is. Because if we lose our republic, guess what, you left-wing Democrats? Even you lose your voice. Everyone loses. It becomes a one-party state, a one-party world government. There's one world government under the UN. This is what it becomes. And, as much as we can celebrate our Republican win here, all we were trying to do here on the other side was try to peel, like I said on my show, peel back the layers. Just step back from that cliff.
Yeah, we have to have balance. We have to have balance.
We got to get the balance back. That's right. That's right. And Bill, I'm sure you're an educated guy. Look, I've read. I'm in the middle of reading a bunch of presidential biographies and a bunch of presidential autobiographies. I'm reading everyone. I read Andrew Jackson. I'm reading Roosevelt right now. I read Reagan, Carter, George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr. I'm looking at all of that. I've just gotten the mail from FedEx that Grover Cleveland, yes, America, Look up Grover Cleveland. Go ahead. Look that guy up. Talk about a guy who rejected practically everything the Congress handed to him. This is what I'm talking about. You've got to look at them all. You might disagree with what they're saying. You might disagree with the party. You might disagree with the policies or the agencies they put together. But at each point in time, throughout each point in American history, everyone has to make a decision. History will end up being the judge. The American people will end up being the judge. What we're dealing with right now is a possibility that we could turn that we could jump off that cliff. We could jump off that cliff into communism and socialism.
Well, I do want to pull you back from the edge of the railing there, Chris. Though I really believe that this country is made up of real Americans through and through. And I think push comes to shove, we're not going to... I think the economy, let's say use the economy as an example. I hear this all the time, well, the economy's so bad. You know what? It's only bad until Obama leaves. Because I really believe there's so much money on the sideline just waiting for him to be out of the way. And once he's out of the way, then this economy is going to be roaring again.
I agree.
You know? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think there's real patriots out there. You know, we can disagree with policies on certain people, but there's real patriots out there, and I just don't think the country's going to disappear. It's just not. It's too valuable. It's not going to disappear. There's too many of us here.
I think it's too big. Yeah, you're right. I think it's too big. Here, you know, I've heard the bad news. I hear the global warnings. And I like what you just said about that there are people holding on to their monies in business. And I've heard the reports about, oh, this is why we're in such a problem right now in our economy. Possibly, you're absolutely correct. I actually like your analogy. I completely agree with you. I think these people are waiting. They're waiting for this. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. This is Meat and Potato Show. They're waiting for this dick ass to get out of office so that we can get back to what we're supposed to do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Meat and Potato Show. Bill,
one of the words of Jeff Gordon from last week. That's right.
Bill, thank you for coming on the show, man. Thank you so much for coming on here. Bill, give a website, information. Give it to my audience.
Yeah, no, it's right now. You can find me at LeBeau at ymail.com. It's GUYLEBEAU. We got Project New Hope Mass.org. I'm on the board of directors there. We do veterans outreach for veterans programs and weekend retreats for combat veterans and their whole family. It's a nonprofit that we started 3.5 years ago, and we've reached almost 1,200 veterans, and it's not going away.
Fantastic.
Unfortunately, we need these types of organizations because we all know the government's not doing enough, and there are some things government should be around for, and taking care of the veterans when they come home is one of those things, but we seem to do a bad job of that. We're good at throwing them into battle. We're not too good at welcoming them home.
There's a line in the Constitution that says, promote the general welfare. We're supposed to promote and protect and serve. And
we're going to keep fighting here behind the enemy lines of Blue State, Massachusetts, and we're going to turn it into a different color. And, you know, we now have a foothold, a beachhead, if you want, in a city, in a liberal city in Massachusetts. Is the second largest city of all of New England. That's 6 states. I mean, it's not a small feat what we did. And we now have a Republican representative in one of the heaviest minority population, poor centers of an inner city in Massachusetts. So there you go.
So, Bill, it has been too long. You and I spoke, I think, at either Scott Brown's campaign or Carol Claros's campaign. We sat down there on the first floor at that. You remember that at that office?
I do.
Yeah, and I told you, buddy, you gotta come on the show. I know you're busy, we're busy, but you know what? I'm so sad that you missed the candidate interviews, the candidate symposium, everything that was going on. I know you're busy. I know you can't get everyone. I understand that. But Bill,
I am a ward chairman, Chris, and I did have a lot of work to do in a lot of different campaigns.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Behind the scenes, and I got this nonprofit I'm working, and plus I did mention I'm 80% disabled. I mean, we do what we can. We never quit, but
Right.
it is what it is.
This is what I'm saying. You can't get everyone. You're busy. I'm busy. But Bill, let's not let that be an impetus or an imposing to getting you back on the show again. Bill,
Not at all.
Thank you
Not at all.
so much for coming on the show. Former Gulf War veteran, my good man, my good friend, Bill LeBeau. Ladies and gentlemen, the Meat and Potato Show. Bill, thank you for coming on to the show tonight.
All right, Chris, have a good night. Thank you.
See you later, bro.
All right.
And there you go. Oh my God, I've been waiting to get that guy on the show for a long time, since 2009. I think it was... I originally met him in 2009. I didn't run into him again until about 2012. Let's see, 2010. I can't even remember. I've worked on so many campaigns and so many interviews. Long story short, I ran into him. We were working on a Scott Brown campaign. We were doing phone calling. And then I ran into him later again during the Carol Claros campaign. Same thing. Making phone calls. That kind of thing. And I did. I was like, hey, Bill, you got to come on the show. You got to come on. This guy does music, all sorts of stuff. You just read his intro. And it's just been this long since I've gotten him back on the show. And thank you, Bill, for coming on the show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we will be talking again. Ladies and gentlemen, conservative talk and awesome rock. The Meat and Potato Show. Good night.